This video will examine the fillet and chamfer commands in AutoCAD. The fillet command can be used to put a fillet radius, in between two objects, and the chamfer command can be used to put in a cutoff or a mitered edge on two objects. We'll begin by looking at the fillet command. The fillet command resides on the Modify panel. When you select the fillet command, you need to look at the command line. Notice that in this example, the current radius for my fillet is 0.125. The default radius for a new drawing has a radius set to 0, so you may need to change that. If you want to change the radius on a fillet, simply choose the radius option on the command line and type in the radius that you want to have. In this case, I will choose 0.25. Enter. Now it asks me to select my first object. So when I select my first object and then I select my second object, notice that it puts in a fillet radius and it trims off the excess that I want. If I repeat this command, fillet, notice that I did then undo, so it has changed the radius back to 0.125. I'll change the radius again to 0.25. When I come in here and I say I want to fillet this to this, it keeps the object that I want. So if I choose this one and this one, notice how it will fillet that to that and trim off the excess. On the other hand, if two objects do not intersect, it will extend them out so that they will. If I go back to the fillet command, notice that the radius now has stayed at 0.25, so I'll say I want to fillet that to that. It extends out the line as necessary and adds the fillet in place. Remember that it always keeps the object that you pick. So if I pick on that side, it keeps that. Or if I pick these two, it keeps what I have there. I can fillet two parallel lines in the right condition. For example, if I look at these two lines and I go to fillet, if I pick this line and this line, it ignores the given fillet radius and puts in an arc that would fillet them both together. Now let's look at the chamfer command. The chamfer command is exactly like the fillet command, except that instead of putting a radius in, it just puts in a line. The chamfer command lives with the fillet command on the Modify panel. Notice that it asks me, or that it indicates down here, that my chamfer distances initially are set to 0. If I leave chamfer distances set to 0, it simply trims off everything else and acts kind of like a trim command. I'm going to undo that. If I go back to the chamfer command, one of my options is distance. So I can now say, what is my first chamfer distance? In this case, I'm going to set a chamfer distance of 0.25 and press enter. Then it asks me for a second chamfer distance. Notice that it takes whatever value I put in here for the first chamfer distance and makes it the default value for the second chamfer distance. If I press enter, what I've done is I've set the chamfer distance to 0.25 for both. In this case, what it will do is if I were to chamfer this to that, it looks at the intersection point, measures back 1/4 of an inch in each direction, and draws a line from that point to that point. So I chamfer this to that, it finds the intersection, measures back 1/4 of an inch, measures back 1/4 of an inch, and puts in the chamfer line. Again, if I were to do this over here, these two lines don't intersect, but if I say chamfer, I pick this one, I pick that one, it extends them both out so that they could. Following this one here, I say chamfer, I pick this one, I pick this one, it extends them out to where they would intersect, measures back 1/4 of an inch in each direction, and adds the line. Notice how the chamfer distance is much different from the fillet distance.